Hello, this is Brian with King Grizzly going through another Elementor Pro widget. Today we are going to take a look at the Media Carousel widget. And this might turn into the Frozen 2 edition. My little girls are in the next room pretending they're in Frozen 2, so if you hear that, my apologies, unless you really like Frozen 2. So I've got three instances of that widget on this page. So this is all the same widget. It just has sort of like three display modes. So I'll go ahead and click on the first one. I'll take a look. So there's this, they call them skin. So carousel, slideshow, or the somewhat outdated looking cover flow, which actually I'd have to change this slides per view for you to see that effect. It's sort of like the iTunes store from like version 1 or so, I don't know. I guess there could be a time where that's kind of cool. So anyway, let's look at the slideshow settings first. We can set for each slide a type, which would be image or video. You set that here. You can link to a custom link. So basically you could link the slide to whatever you want here, or to the media file itself, which I believe would come up in a lightbox. Yep, cool. Click on that again. Okay. Or none, if you don't want to link to anything, you just want to show off whatever's in the slideshow. It's really easy. You can duplicate them by clicking on this duplicate, or you can add an item. You can choose the transition effect. So the slide, a fade. So if I click fade, they just fade. Cube's pretty interesting. Actually does a sort of three-dimensional flip. Every once in a while, I bet that could be pretty cool. And then you can set the height. Really nice. And you can do that per device size, right? So you could change it on tablet and choose a different height. You can choose how many thumbnails you want per view. So maybe 6 is too many. Maybe I just want 4. Really nice. You can choose the ratio of those thumbnails. 4 by 3, 16 by 9. And you can choose whether or not you want this sort of featured slide to be here on the left, the thumbnail, or centered. So let's say, I don't know, let's say I had like 5 of these. And I wanted my bicycle to be centered as a thumb. I could click centered slides and you'd see that there. I think typically though, it's people are used to it being on the left. We've got some additional options here. So we can decide if we want to show these arrows, yes or no. We could choose how long in milliseconds we want the transition to take, the cube or the fade or the slide. We can choose whether or not we want this to autoplay. I find that 5,000 is just too fast and distracting, so I might change that to something like 7,500, or I might just turn it off. And then you can choose if you want to pause on an interaction or not, which is a good idea, but if you turn that off, if you turn the pause on hover off, it'll tend to just keep going even if someone has their mouse over it. And then you can choose whether or not you want an infinite loop, so that's like when I get to the end of these thumbnails, should it just sort of keep going? Or should it dead end, essentially? So if I turn that off, once I get to the end, I duplicated that last scroll twice. I can't keep going to the right. I have to start going back. So that's what infinite loop can, if you turn that on, it'll just keep going to the right. And we have styling options, right? So we can control the space between the slides and the featured element. So maybe I'd want to change this to 10. We can adjust padding, border radius. We could actually set a border or background color. On the navigation, we could choose a size for the arrows, make them bigger, make them smaller. If you have a video, you can style the play icon. See, this rotation speed is just driving me crazy. I think I will go to additional options and just turn off autoplay. Go back to style. So we can style the navigation effects. We can also style the lightbox that pops up. So the actual color of the background when you click on an image and the width of a video that pops up. So that is the slideshow mode. If we go down, you can see here we've got one set to carousel. And interestingly enough, I noticed on this one, if you change from the slide effect, so let's say we did 3 slides per view. there's no arrows here, so you have to drag. So I may want to try to see if I can turn on arrows. Let's see, arrows, yes. So it's a little more obvious that this is interactive. So that's cool, but if I go back up here and I choose, instead of slide, I choose fade, you'll notice that we lose the slides per view option, and it's just, you just kind of get the one. And so you have to set a height on it. It's something to know. Same with cube, I believe. So if you want multiple for the carousel view, you need to set it to slide. And then it's all very similar settings. It's just such a nice widget, I think. You can choose whether or not you want the pagination, which is the little dots underneath. You could use dots or fractions, 1 of 5, progress. The progress bar is actually across the top. I'll be curious to see if we can style that a little better, because as it is there, that's not very useful, right? So if we go to style, navigation, I don't see a way to style that progress bar. If somebody knows how to do that, other than, you know, say CSS, let me know. So I tend not to use that just because it doesn't seem like it works very well. So for pagination, I'd probably stick to something like dots. And then, you know, you can style those over here. You can also style the overlay color. So when you hover with your mouse, it kind of tints it, and you can control, you know, the opacity on that. Lightbox. We click on one of these, it pops up. It's just controlling the background for the pop-up, same as the other. And then finally we have coverflow. And coverflow, you know, once again, very similar. It's just an intuitive tool. You can control how many slides you want to scroll. So I could say, once, you know, basically when somebody clicks on an arrow, turn that on. They're gray, so they're hard to see. But when someone clicks on an arrow, how many slides do I want it to scroll? Just one, right? So if I click on the arrow, it just moves one, or do I want to maybe move 3? So it swaps out 3 at a time. I guess it can't, maybe I don't have enough yet. Let me duplicate. Let's try again. Slides to scroll 3. Okay, that appears to not work, or maybe I need a save and a refresh. In theory, it should slide by 3. Let's try 4. Maybe we have a bug. Yeah, it's not working. I'll try an update and a refresh real quick. Let's see if that works. Okay. So click on that. Set to scroll 4 slides, and it doesn't. So I don't know, that could be a conflict on mine. In theory, it would actually scroll 4. So maybe that's a bug. I don't know. So I think that's a pretty decent overview of the Media Carousel widget. Please consider subscribing. We'll be rolling out more of these videos, and we have some more ambitious ideas in mind for some learning resources related to Elementor. Thanks for checking this out.